Hi, I'm Abhishek Arora. I work at Microsoft's India Development Center in Bangalore, and I work as a software development engineer, or SDE for short.
Abhishek, can you describe to us briefly your company Microsoft, although it's very visible?
Yeah, so for the no-brainers, Microsoft is a software development company based out of Redmond in Seattle in the US. In India, it's headquartered in Hyderabad, which is in fact the second biggest headquarters in the world, and I'll tell you it's huge. So otherwise, the development centers are in Bangalore and Pune, but it's got a bunch of sales offices and whatnot in other locations. I'm pretty sure you don't really care about that. So now the common misconception about Microsoft is that we're Google 2.0, which is not true at all. We compete with them in the search and ads market, but we have our hands in so many different markets that it's hard to keep track of what we're actually trying to do. So I mean, we got Bing, which is basically Google. We've got Azure, which is cloud. We're competing with Amazon chiefly. We have the Dynamics framework, which is business solutions. We have Visual Studio, which has to do with the development tools, and then we have applications and services, which encompasses MSN and a lot of Windows Phone applications. Then we have Xbox, which you guys should really know what Xbox is. And we have Microsoft Studios, which does gaming, and the list goes on and on. So Microsoft is not just about being, and of course Windows. How can I forget Windows operating systems? But yeah, it's not one-dimensional at all.
How can we see Microsoft in daily life?
All right, guys, have you seriously not seen Microsoft? But yeah, so let's see. How many of you would use Linux/Mac? Okay, I'm not talking to you, but yeah, Windows is the most obvious daily experience that Microsoft products provide. Then that has to do with when you boot up your PC, you see Windows in most cases. Then you probably got an Xbox at home. You probably got Skype to communicate with your friends. Do any of you use a Windows phone? Not too many people really, but so Microsoft has a lot of these everyday devices. Since it also partakes in a lot of B2B scenarios, there would be tons of other tools you'll be using as a business. So I'm not going to include those here for brevity. But one thing that Microsoft would like to emphasize today, what their current broad strategic goal is, you could say, is to empower users in a mobile-first, cloud-first environment. So what they're trying to do is give users a very similar experience across all the devices that they have, provided they're running Windows 10. Yeah, that's the latest operating system which is trying to do all this. So they want to give you seamless experiences across all the apps you use on an everyday basis, whether you just wake up in the morning to switch on your laptop, or you want to continue what you started then when you're on the way to work. So that's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to provide very similar experiences wherever you're going and using Windows devices. So that's what Microsoft is trying to do right now.
Abhishek Arora, what are the technologies that Microsoft is working on?
So given our vast product base and the kind of markets that we deal with, this is a really more or less infinite list to go by. But I'll try and answer this as briefly as possible. So Microsoft will deal with anything that a computer scientist wants to get their hands dirty with. So we have an IT division which deals with internal processes, like say how an employee's card actually works on a day-to-day basis, basic other organizational processes. Then we have the development division, which I'm a part of, which develops the products that Microsoft for. And each of these products is intertwined with a bunch of other products. So they cross-sell you a bundle. So if I'm talking about dynamic CRM, which is what I'm working on. It's in the end a business productivity tool. So it comes in looking like a web application at first, which Microsoft natively writes in .NET, which is their proprietary framework, but it's also coupled with a lot of Azure technologies. So Azure is basically a cloud portal for a set of cloud services like machine learning, insights, analytics, and web services, and a huge bundle of different services that you can provide via the cloud. And all these services are actually employed by the pseudo web application that is CRM. And the CRM is also hooked into Bing, which helps it provide efficient searches across the internet for anything you might want to find, which might help you increase your revenues. And apart from that, it's linked into Yammer, which is social networking. It's linked into Skype. It's hooked into Skype if you want to chat across your organization or whatever. So I mean, all these products are really bundled together and sold as a package. And in Microsoft, there's no narrow focus on technologies or whatever. They've been largely proprietary when they started, but of late they've taken a turn where they're really looking into more open source. We recently took in Git instead of using our native source depot as a version control system. So right now, Microsoft is heavily embracing open source technology and using a lot of technology made by the open source community.
Abhishek, can you tell us about the exposure that a leading technology company of the world like Microsoft offers to its employees outside of its work, outside of your normal work routine?
All right. So Microsoft, like most companies today, has a certain amount of time dedicated to corporate social responsibility, or CSR. As far as I've seen in Bangalore, the office doesn't contribute in a very direct manner. Hyderabad, they organize regular trips to orphanages and whatnot. In Bangalore, however, and actually more or less throughout India, we have this 2-month-long event called the Giving Campaign, as it's dubbed, which is basically a set of events organized by employees for employees, which are actually charged to the employees, and the proceeds all go to charity. For example, if I have a bunch of musicians and I want to play a small concert, I could charge $200 per employee, and all the attendees pay me that money, and it's paid to charity. And the bonus part is whatever contributions employees give, Microsoft, the company itself, matches that contribution. So what will be going to charity is twice of what the employees give every time. So whether you could organize events from taking dance lessons to a Dance Revolution competition, to pool competitions, whatnot, and you charge money for them, and all these proceeds go to charity. It's about a 2-month period every year. So that's one thing. Apart from that, when it comes to business trips, business trips always happen according to need. It's not like you regularly go out and spend time. So depending on where your team is based out of, for example, Dynamics CRM is more or less based out of Hyderabad. So I did have a trip to Hyderabad once because of some issues, but you could travel or not travel entirely depending on your line of business. So that's not a given. Apart from that, for fun trips, yes, Microsoft does believe in making sure its employees are motivated. So we actually had a recent 3-day trip to Goa, which was fully sponsored by the company. So there was a fixed set of events. They had us put up in a pretty good place, and it was really good fun. They did a really good job of that, and now we have to go back and work extra hard because of that. So yeah, they do believe in exposing us to the outside world. And one more thing I would like to add is, like, when it comes to conferences, they do really encourage you to go out and gain some exposure when there are some good conferences going on. For example, there's this annual conference called Grace Hopper Conference, which is for women in technology, And Microsoft usually encourages the women in our organization to go attend it. And the sponsorship fee is pretty high, and Microsoft sponsors it entirely and lets them go for this 3-day conference. So there's a lot of exposure to be had from working at Microsoft.
How does Microsoft interact with young engineers who are currently in college?
Okay, so there are just two modes of interaction that I'm aware of. One of them being internships. So they go to selected a group of colleges and recruit interns who are in their third year of engineering. And so this is a 2-month intern period. Now, I wasn't an intern at Microsoft, so I'm not aware of the details, but they, from my other corporate exposure as an intern, I can tell that the internship, apart from being technical and project oriented, attempts to expose the intern to the corporate environment. So you learn how team collaboration works, how large organizations approach their work and whatnot. So it's a really good experience if you can see yourself working in a large organization later on. And apart from that, I've seen the Code Fundo hackathon, which is a hackathon conducted by Microsoft in college campuses being organized. So they go to college campuses and they dish out problem statements and have 24-hour hackathons. So that's and they directly interact with students. They possibly, I don't know about if they shortlist pretty bright students for further opportunities or whatnot, but that's a possibility.
Abhishek, tell us about the work culture and the work environment at Microsoft.
So from my experience, I'd say Microsoft's work culture is one of its strongest points. It at all times it tries to make employees feel motivated and willing to do their work. It is the exact opposite of oppressive. So again, this is really dependent on your organization, because large organizations do generally have a lot of variability in their work culture, depending on who your manager is, how people interact. But my experience has been pretty good so far in that regard. So now the employee is entrusted to deliver within a given period and has the flexibility to do so how the employee sees fit. So, I mean, apart from if you're following an agile process, you got to give regular updates and make sure you're just following the right procedure and whatnot. So, as a consequence of this trust placed in the employee, we don't have fixed working hours. You can come and go as you like, and we can work from home whenever we want. But again, you can't just keep working from home. And but that's a double-edged sword. So that means when things are going rough in your organization, you need to work extra hours and possibly on weekends. I've already done that, being in for just 6 months. So it's not going to be all easy. But that's the case pretty much everywhere. You can't really expect any better anywhere. So as for work pressure, like I said, there are rough patches, there are clean patches. So I had an entire month where I was coming home at 4 in the night, and I also worked most of the weekends. The weekends meaning Saturday and Sunday, not just Saturday. So yeah, it got rough, but then after that I had an entire month where I was actually typing more on YouTube than in my coding window. So it can vary really depending on how your project is going. So and you're always encouraged to go out and ask others for work and do that. So it's a very open work environment. People really emphasize on collaborating. So if you're stuck anywhere, you can reach out to the guy to the guy concerned over Skype and just get some guidance whenever you want. He'll reply at his leisure, but he'll make sure he helps you out. It's a really good work culture they emphasize there. And as for your managers, again, it depends. Sometimes your managers are relatively new to the work culture and they've possibly been in a more oppressive environment, and they'll naturally use that sort of experience over here. So, I mean, it's a little variable, but on the whole, the work culture is just more or less encourages you to work, and it's very collaborative and really healthy work culture, I'd say. So regarding the work environment, aka the office, it's very well stocked, to say the least. So, I mean, if you come there, your first week will give you the impression that you can literally live inside the office. It's got tons of food, 24/7. They actually stop filling after 5. But yeah, it's got a good number of leisure facilities and sports facilities. We have gym, we have pool tables, we have table tennis, we have badminton, we have Xboxes. Like they really make sure that your productivity is at its peak, and they understand that that means you have to take an hour or two off every day to just go fool around. So that's all right. It's really good that way, and and it's at least the Bangalore office is really well located. It's on Level Road. You have the finest breweries around you, so post work is fun, to say the least.